Welcome to Conversations with the Candidates. I'm Thor Jourgensen, City Editor of the Daily Item. Our guest today is June Natola, School Committee candidate. Welcome, June.
Thank you for inviting me, Thor. My voice is going to be a little bit scratchy, so I hope everybody can overlook that. My name is June Natola. I'm running for School Committee, and I have my background. My educational background is I started at North Shore Community College and went up to Wheelock College, where I graduated with honors. I taught in the Lynn Public Schools for over 33 years, and upon retiring, I reflected back upon the years that I did teach and said there was a lot we really needed to have as teachers, a lot of support. We needed to have the equipment in order to do the work. As everybody knows, there have been years where the teachers had to go out and buy their own paper, their own pencils. The last year or two of my life, I spent a lot of my money on buying crackers. Believe it or not, I was known as the cracker lady in the middle school that I last taught in. Children come to school not having had breakfast. They usually get in there late, so they don't have time to go for breakfast. So my supplement was saltines. And those children, if they're watching, will know me as the cracker lady. I taught for, as I say, 33, 35 years, if you count the subbings. And we as teachers have been expected to deal with integrated classrooms. This was my particular focus, my area when I was teaching. The problem was that we had children coming in English as a second language, and we had children coming in from the self-contained classrooms. There could be up to 30 students in each class, but we were never given the provisions to work with them. In order to work with varied levels of ability, we need the material that we never had. We need leveled books, meaning for the students who have difficulty with the language or learning, they need a lower level. National Geographic is a very good example of a publisher who publishes these graduated books, so that if you have children who are regular students with ordinary abilities, we have a level for them, and then we have the higher level, hopefully, for the outstanding children who are well beyond what we're dealing with in the classroom. One of my focus areas is that teachers need leveled reading books, and they need a bank of 6 computers, because the school I was in, we could never get computer time. And if we have advanced students, they need to be able to go on the computer and go beyond what I'm taking them with in the classroom. We need to have manageable class sizes. I know I'm doing this all backwards.
You're fine. Continue, June.
And I apologize.
Not at all.
But the first year that I was retired, I said, let me put my feet up and let me just go about my life. But as the election came up this year, I reflected on all the things that are still being needed by teachers in schools all over Lynn. If we are going to have classrooms that have English language learners mixed in with children from regular education who are on a grade level ability, and we're going to mix other children who are either higher or lower, we have to provide the teacher with the ability to work with them. As it stands, these teachers get no support, no help at all. If children are in the small classrooms because of handicaps, those teachers are given an aid. But once they move these children out of those classrooms and into regular education, there's no help for them. And there are no materials, there's no leveled readers. I've been retired. This is going into my second year. The textbook that we used in the middle school dated back to the 1990s, and it was supposed to be up-to-date social studies, talking about the world. To date, those books have not been replaced. I've seen the teacher that took over my classroom. She still has those same old books. They were never replaced. So we've talked about the fact that the teachers need to have the supplies. They need computer time in the classroom. They need leveled readers. They need manageable class sizes. Anything over 25, especially when you have mixed classes like this, is almost impossible to deal with. But we're concerned about test scores. And I won't beat this to death because I know it's an issue everybody's been talking about. In addition to the MCAS, children are given quarterly tests by the city, and by the time you get the results of the quarterly test, you've already passed that material. So data is very tricky. Data can be used in mysterious ways. I can remember asking a question about reducing class size in a public meeting, and not long afterwards, I saw statistics for the school I was in that made it look like the average class size was 25. No, it wasn't. If you take the self-contained classrooms and factor them into the larger, it does make it appear that we have smaller classes. But no, we didn't. We still had huge classes. The teachers today need to be able to evaluate the principals. I worked over 33 years in the Lynn schools. I've worked with the best, and I've worked with the worst. And the best teachers become better when they have good principals. The best teachers with a bad principal has a hard time, given the fact they have oversized classes, outdated textbooks, very little support. One of the big things I honestly believe, principals need to be evaluated by the teachers that they work with. A good principal is inspiring. A good principal brings everybody in and helps them become part of the process. A bad principal has a few toadies and then goes through the rooms as if they are God. Oh, that's not hanging correctly, or I didn't care for the way you said that. Bottom line, I think that principals, if they understand that they are going to be working with and evaluated by teachers, will become better principals.
June, if I can
Please
ask
do.
you,
Anything.
what could you describe? You had a long teaching career. Would you describe your accomplishments? What are you the most proud of?
What am I most proud of? I believe it's the human connection. I believe it's something as silly as bringing crackers to kids who are hungry. I am a very direct person. When parent-teachers meetings came, I would tell their parents, I am not here to entertain your child. I am here to help your child learn. I want them to be able to read. I want them to understand the material. Myself, other teachers, we would be in the building sometimes until 4 and 5 o'clock, working with kids who wanted the extra help. If you want respect, you have to give it. I guess maybe the thing I'm the most proud of is the fact that I could get along with the worst kids, the worst, because I respected them, they respected me. I set limits for them. They didn't always like the limits, but they understood when I talked to them in my office, which was the hall, that this isn't just because I'm being grouchy. This is because you're going to be living in the real world, and you cannot have bad behavior. More jobs are lost statistically because people have difficulty getting along with their peers, because they have trouble even knowing what the limits are, and they have to. I have never met a student that didn't want to learn, but I've met students whose learning abilities were not understood. I've had students come in, that require wait time. In other words, if I ask you a question and I give you enough time, you'll come up with the answer. But if I ask you a question and you don't give me the answer in 10 seconds or less, I'll move on, and I just ruined you. I ruined your day. Every human being has a learning style. I have a very bad memory. I learn by association. Many students do that. There are students who come in. I've had students that if you could read the material to them and then verbally ask them questions, they could give you the answers. But their particular learning style was not visual. It was not reading and writing. It was hearing and speaking.
June, if I may, what's
please.
the biggest problem facing the city, the biggest challenge?
I believe we're still stuck in the horse and buggy ages. I don't think there's a school in Lynn that's aware that this was Manufacturing Month. Manufacturing Month means huge money to the schools, in particular the trade schools, who adopt the philosophy of manufacturing. It's amp it up mass. There's big money. Why haven't we? I've been working with high school kids. Did your guidance counselor tell you about this program? No. It's a program whereby manufacturing business has done outreach with the cities and towns and the schools. They need skilled workers going into manufacturing. We're not providing it because we don't even know about it. They will provide money for training. They will provide money for the guidance counselors. It's a business school political partnership. We have a huge trade school here in Lynn, but we're not utilizing it.
How, as a school committee woman, would you assure excuse me, that utilization takes place?
No one person can do anything by themselves. It has to be a team effort. There is money. That's okay. There's money out there for manufacturing. And when we talk manufacturing, we're talking robotics. We're talking medical. Seth Moulton was here, you people interviewed him. He said, your city needs to come up with a plan. Give us a plan. I don't think we've come up with a plan. The only plan I've heard of since I've been running for school committee was that the temporary custodians were let go, and we have replaced them with a service. Now, when I was teaching, we had a service come in every summer, not the regular custodians, but we had a service come in. And as God is my judge, when we went back to school in the fall, they had waxed over dead mice. That's about the only new program I've heard of. I have gone to public hearings since I've started running. I went to the public hearing for whether or not we should have a primary. There were candidates in the audience. I was the only one who got up and spoke. I guess one of the good things about being me is I'm old. I don't have to worry about my job. I don't have to worry about my electability. I'm me. I'm direct. I say what I think. And then there was the hearing for the school budget. I was the only candidate who spoke. And the very first thing that I should say what I closed with, because everybody's talking about the charter schools and they're afraid of the money they're taking. Well, we better start providing the service that the charter schools are providing. We need to have our schools open 7 o'clock in the morning like the charter schools. I mean, the kids can go in, not stand in the yard. Our schools need to be open after school, a safe place for kids to be. They're not. We need to do it.
You've run for election before.
Mm-hmm.
You ran for mayor 25 years ago, I believe.
That was one of the pleasures of my life. Remembering I'm an old timer.
Let me ask you a question,
Yeah.
sort of segue from that.
Yeah.
Why should someone vote for you for school committee?
First of all, because I'm 35 years older, hopefully 35 years wiser, and I have nothing to lose by telling the truth. I have nothing to lose. Nothing. I don't have to worry about my husband or my wife who works for the city losing their job if I cross certain people. I don't have that. I can say what I want to say. Anybody who disagrees with me, one of the things, because I am outspoken, I have always said to the people I worked with, if I'm rambling, if I'm talking too much, do this to me. Means shut up. And I'll listen. I'll shut my mouth. Believe it or not, I
This
will.
has been a conversation with school committee candidate June Natola. I am Thor Jourgensen, city editor of the Daily Item. Please read the Daily Item and itemlive.com for continued election coverage. June, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Thor.
Always a pleasure.